We know that the Democratic Party loves woke signaling. Their Kente, what was it? The Kente cloth.
Yeah.
They Kente cloth where they kneeled for George Floyd. Obviously, I think they're renaming certain buildings now, or renaming certain programs after George Floyd. And on the 1-year anniversary yesterday of George Floyd's murder, Nancy Pelosi made sure, in my view, in a creepy way, to make it seem like, she was, totally changing the world on behalf of George Floyd. So let's show the clip with Nancy Pelosi and George Floyd's daughter and the rest of George Floyd's family standing around with Nancy Pelosi, again, pretending that, no disrespect to George Floyd, that George Floyd has changed the world because now, the oceans have lifted and black people aren't going to get killed all over the country.
Gianna said, my daddy will change the world. And indeed, her prediction is coming true. And it's coming true because of so many people who worked so hard for decades to make it come true. Basically,
you have Pelosi touching the little girl's hair, which was kind of weird.
Right, which is that's a no-no.
Credit to the little girl for paying no attention to her, which I liked.
No, she did. Look at her face.
Oh, okay. Maybe
it's not okay.
Maybe Nancy's got a little creepy Joe in her with the sniffing of the hair and all that, but that's another story. But I want to show this from The Intercept because it kind of shows a little bit more. Congress misses symbolic deadline for police reform. Senate negotiations on police reform started breaking down on May 9th when House Majority Whip James Clyburn told CNN that Democrats should open their minds to passing a measure that did not end qualified immunity, the legal doctrine that protects police officers from civil suits. So let's be clear. James Clyburn, who's Nancy Pelosi's right hand, it's the House Whip. While Nancy Pelosi is sitting there, using George Floyd's family as a prop, and I'm not calling George Floyd's family stupid or anything. Like, I get why they accepted the invitation. George Floyd's brother and other family members apparently met with Biden for over an hour. I'm sure Biden, turned on that charm and, gave a bunch of empty platitudes. But they're already unilaterally withdrawing from removing qualified immunity, which would be the most important thing they could do. If police officers could actually be sued personally, civilly, yeah, they'll think twice because it's all about the money. That's what qualified immunity is. It basically prevents the officer who killed the officer who killed Eric Garner live on tape, and so on, from being civilly liable. The police departments could be sued civilly. States could be sued civilly, but not the individual officers. Well, I don't know, Jen, if you're a doctor and you are reckless, you could be sued for malpractice. Mm-hmm. How many other positions in America can you be sued if you mess up? Or worse, there's intent, there's motive to do wrong. So the Democrats, with full control of the White House, full control of the Senate, full control of the House, they're unilaterally disarming on qualified immunity, basically so that they could cobble some piece of dog shit together that would then have George Floyd's name in it, do a White House ceremony, and then have the media pretend that this is, they love to use these terms, sweeping reform. They did it with the COVID relief bill, which was a Band-Aid to a gunshot wound. It's absurd. It's absurd. And I'm going to keep going, Colin. Over the past year, ending qualified immunity has often been framed as a marquee activist issue, but the concept has long had bipartisan support. Following backlash from some centrist members to protest against police brutality, Democrats have been skittish to support any measure that could be used to attack them later as anti-police. And many have leaned into the notion that the legal doctrine is untouchable. The likelihood that a measure to end or even limit the scope of qualified immunity will advance to the final package is growing smaller by the day. In a statement, Watson Coleman said that keeping qualified immunity would be an insult to protesters and voters who helped elect Biden. Despite protests, demands, and elections, unarmed black people continue to die at the hands of the police, while qualified immunity continues to shield police from accountability, and the culture of excessive force by the hands of law enforcement against black and brown body persists, she said, adding that the removal of the provision would be an affront to those who marched and those who voted for change, effectively placing a bandage over a gaping wound. In addition to a ban on qualified immunity, the Justice for Police Act policies that may not make it into the Senate bill include making it easier to federally prosecute officers who violate someone's rights. So this might not be in it. Making it easier to federally prosecute officers who violate someone's civil rights, and any meaningful cuts to federal law enforcement budgets. It's just pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. And this is why I say, Jen, imagine. I mean, I'm not telling Black Lives Matter what to do, but imagine if even a quarter of the people that mobilized last year for months also economically protested. That you'd start seeing change really quick. But right now, I mean, I think the main piece in this point, Democrats only care about being reelected. The Democrats don't want to turn off their donors, and they don't want to be looked at as anti-police. Hence, we're going to water this down to nothing while using George Floyd's family as a prop.
I completely agree. I think it's, it's so disgusting how, going back to George Floyd's daughter, how Nancy touched her hair, just like you can tell Nancy doesn't get it. She comes from that generation. This is not an excuse, by the way. You can tell she just doesn't get it. She comes from that generation that's like condescending and like, oh, look at this, look at this black girl, little black girl, how cute. You can tell she's like that, and that she is like that liberal, just gross kind of person. That's just who Nancy is. Not an excuse at all. She's disgusting. And the face that little girl made is completely spot on. Just like, get off of me, you insane old decrepit white lady. And it is completely spot on, Jordan, that you say that George Floyd's family is being used as a prop by these people. I agree also that I totally understand why they agreed, why Felonious and the family agreed to go meet with Joe Biden. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you take the chance to take the ear of the president? Even if you could say one thing that might make a difference, why wouldn't you take that chance? And I obviously, for so many reasons, cannot speak for the family. There are obviously a lot of emotions wrapped up in that, a lot of things they want to have happen. I don't know what their specific hopes and dreams are and the specific things they want to have happen. But if I had to guess or try to put myself in the shoes of a family member who was maybe lost in that way, I don't know. I would give it my all. I would go meet with the president. I would go give it my all. I would give it everything. But for the rest of us who can view what is happening, they're being paraded around and used. And it is just like the Kente Clock situation. It is using George Floyd's name and saying, oh, look at these convictions we got. Look at this reform we have. And look at all we're doing. Look how great we are, us Democrats. We're the real change. We have Trump out of office now. Everything's just going to be great. Everything's going to be fantastic and just fine. You guys can all go back to sleep. There's no need to worry. The convictions are good. Just don't worry about a thing. And that is what they want to happen. They don't want people to realize that Joe Biden is in favor of giving more money to the police. They don't want people to realize that MPD, the DC police, are getting more money. They don't want people to realize what is actually happening. And what is actually happening is nothing, is none of the demands, none of the demands, zero of the demands that people wanted from these protests. Nothing, nothing. Nothing is changing. Nothing has changed. Andrew Brown, Dante Wright, Marvin Scott III. Breonna Taylor has no justice. None. No justice. No justice for so many people, so many names. It's disgusting. I say this all the time when we cover stories like this, whether it's for Black Lives Matter, police brutality, anything to do with people in power who are standing up there and pretending they're doing the right thing, knowing damn well that they're not. I don't know how they do it. How could you be a Nancy Pelosi or a Joe Biden and stand up there and pretend that you're doing the right thing? How could you look felonious Floyd in the eye and pretend that you're doing the right thing for his brother? How could you do that? I don't know how those people sleep at night. I cannot understand the mindset of these evil people who don't think that they're evil, but that know that they're not doing the right thing, that know that they're not doing what they've promised to do. I just cannot wrap my mind around it. These people who answer to their donors and do not answer to the Floyd family, that tap the head of George Floyd's daughter, placating her, condescending to her, and do what they're doing.